General Greene here. God bless. It is now clear what the next agenda items are of the deep state, where they will be pushing everyday ordinary Americans next, what Donald Trump is doing to position the nation during a time of crisis. Again, if you're just coming in, please like and share. It is incredibly obvious today, November 20th, 2025, what the next major agenda item is in America. And this is an emergency alert. It is an emergency broadcast. And the United States of America sits on the potential edge of disaster. Not just social disaster, but God forbid, civil war and civil unrest. Pray against this. But I'm going to explain in a very logical and calm way what is happening now, what Donald Trump is setting the stage for. Keep in mind that a bombshell was dropped yesterday. Donald Trump exposed and will continue to expose the Epstein list over the next 30 days, naming countless Democrat after Democrat. He's revealed in a massive Truth Social post within the last 24 hours, name-dropping specific names that include Bill Clinton and also Larry Summers, who has been excommunicated and now dropped from Harvard and removed from the ChatGPT OpenAI board. More names will be dropped. More people will be put on Donald Trump's deep state list, and the swamp is being drained as we speak. But what is most alarming, please like and share, are the dramatic posts of Donald Trump, the dramatic reposts and reshares on Truth Social as we speak. Now, I'm going to be PC as I explain it to you, but the gloves are off, folks. We have not seen these conditions since the first Civil War in the United States of America. I'm going to get to that in a moment, but keep in mind that most American cities have already been pre-mobilized and militarized by the National Guard. And I believe Donald Trump will declare the Insurrectionist Act in the United States of America shortly. I'm going to explain his presidential powers, what I believe will come next, and how to prepare for it. But first, please like and share for eyes that can see and ears that can listen. Again, when I told millions of Americans and the world that they would be locked in their houses in 2020 and the whole world would be shut down, and I told you that businesses would be closed, travel would be prohibited, and life as you knew it would come to a dramatic end, most people said I was crazy. Now, most will probably say what I'm warning of today is also crazy. But it is exactly what's going to happen next. It's exactly what the deep state is positioning. Let me know you can hear me. I had to plug it into some power there. Can you still hear me? Give me a thumbs up and just say yes, 1000X General. Like it, share it, leave a little comment. Let me know because I just had to plug it into power. I want to make sure things are working. This video really is important. Thank you, 555 Revelation. Really appreciate you. So let's take a quick look. I'll just give kind of a PC review, but I encourage you to visit Donald Trump's account with, I think, 11 million followers on Truth Social, something like that, and what he has just warned about. So I'll read it so you kind of catch the drift. But basically, he says, seditious behavior, punishable by the most extreme thing I could say, right? You've seen this in the past with like tar and feathering and worse. So I can't read it to you, but he says seditious behavior, punishable by, you know what the word is. Keep in mind, this is the President of the United States, okay? This is the most powerful person in the world telling you where he stands and what comes next. Now, I also just want to candidly explain to the American people too, just keep in mind that this is what the American people asked for. You asked for the complete Epstein reveal. There's a lot of people accusing Trump from not releasing it, they said, or not releasing it soon enough. Well, now he has, and now you are being sent into what I believe are civil war conditions. So just understand, this is what the American people asked for. You've heard the saying, be careful what you wish for, but now that these drops have commenced, the gloves are off. Now, Donald Trump also reshared earlier this morning, I can't say that either, but he says, do this to them like George Washington would. It's very graphic. I can't say it. So Donald Trump's basically calling for the you-know-what of Democrats. I want it to sink in for a minute. This is not me saying it. It's the president. Things I can say are, he said, indict all of them. Insurrection, treason. So what's going to happen next? Keep in mind the entire nation state has already been pre-mobilized and militarized for months. I told you that they were doing that for a reason. Remember how the deep state told you to be safe, and doesn't look like anything safe, far from that, the way the country is headed. So this was even predicted in the Economist magazine that was just released, the 2026 World Ahead. It shows Donald Trump in a ball of fire and essentially chaos. This is previously owned by the Rothschilds. The deep state continues to own this periodical publication. And in it, there was the American flag and a fist in chains. There was also two swords of the old and new guard, symbolic of what is coming. Now, keep in mind, too, we are in a new day and age of massive surveillance. There's robot dogs, robots, drones, Havana-like WEAPONs, sound WEAPONs. The list goes on and on. So the technology is really advanced. We've never seen a quote-unquote police state at this technological scale. And keep in mind that our strongest companies in the world that serve our military and the Pentagon are also closely in bed with Donald Trump and partners. Companies like Anduril, which manufacture many of the drones on the battlefield and surveillance technology, along with Palantir that also provides all the surveillance and data mining overseas, but also on what they call domestic, we'll say, events. So let me explain to you what Donald Trump is going to do next. In my opinion, I believe he will declare the Insurrection Act. As a result, he will use force in the streets of America. There will be massive protests, God forbid, in my opinion, mostly in American cities. The Democrats will fight back, calling for the impeachment of Donald Trump. All of this will be happening through the end of the year and the holidays and Christmas. Again, the deep state cabal, I don't know why, but the occultists, those that worship Satan, always like to make really big graphic moves during the period when everyone should be celebrating and happy and joyful. But notice, Satan's always there to interrupt. So for those of you who don't know, the Insurrection Act of 1807 is a federal law that gives Donald Trump, the President of the United States, the authority to deploy U.S. military forces on American soil in very specific emergency situations. However, a lot of it's really, ambiguous. It has to do with what the president is thinking, his executive, power. So it's not really clear cut what would cause the declaration of the Insurrection Act. It's really at the whim who's ever in charge. Now, also too, to be concerned too, think about the fact that in the future, let's say Gavin Newsom gets in charge, or a Democrat gets in charge who was maybe on the Epstein list, they could also invoke it as well. So keep in mind, it's extreme. Think about all the chaos that's happened in the United States. The chaos of the second election that Donald Trump allegedly didn't win. Then we saw what happened on the Capitol. We've seen the chaos in our cities in 2020. Again, there was those protests. I'm not allowed to say the name, but remember, like Nike, Louis Vuitton shops were set on fire. There was people parading around the streets, breaking windows and glass everywhere. CNN was broadcasting, promoting it, right? So it's not like we haven't already had some of this stuff. It's just the match has finally been lit. So what the deep state has done is poured kerosene all over the United States, all over its politics, all over its mainstream media. It's made the call to the fake news, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, getting everybody ready. Okay, so it's a perfect setup. Now, the Insurrection Act is one of the most powerful and controversial presidential authorities. I'm just reading here. Because normally the military cannot be used domestically due to the Posse Comitatus Act, which prevents the Army and Air Force from acting as domestic police. But the Insurrection Act is the exception. Now, keep in mind, people like Elon Musk that are rolling out our robot armies also have control and are in partnership with Donald Trump. So I want you to think about in the future, let's say you're trying to negotiate with a Tesla bot cop, okay? Or the AI locking your doors in your self-driving Tesla car, or robot dogs policing and parading your streets, or drones with giant megaphones and, let's say, sound WEAPONs pointing your direction. So I just want you to picture this, because this is what's being built. It's already what's been built. I told you this before, but Ukraine, the whole reason for the Ukraine war was to really be a testing hotbed and groundwork, so to speak, for the technology that they'll use here, okay? Now, when can a president invoke the Insurrection Act? Now, we already said it. So he reshared moments ago, too. He called it insurrection. So he's already saying it. This is Trump's repost quote. He calls it insurrection and treason. He also called for things I can't repeat. Okay, so he's going full-blown, over-the-edge graphic. So I want you to understand, too, there's a tinderbox in the United States right now, a tinderbox with Democrats, a tinderbox with Republicans. It's the perfect setup, the perfect storm. Now, also, while this happens and rolls out, of course, the U.S. dollar will officially collapse, as I've predicted. There will be bank runs and capital controls. We're seeing a lot of volatility in the financial markets. Just a little quick update that the Japanese yen carry trade is imploding. Interest rates are moving into a pig's nation style collapse there, which is very dependent on our debt-fueled Wall Street financial market. That's unraveling as we speak. And I can go into all the other details, $40 trillion worth of debt. It's all going to implode in the coming months. This is the Bretton Woods reset. I've been warning about this whole time. Now, look, I know it sounds out there, right? Many of you told me I was crazy when I told you they'd lock down the entire world, and then I was proven to be Nostradamus. Now I'm telling you now. Remember, I told you that the attack on Iran would happen. I even predicted the exact day Donald Trump would attack the 3 nuclear proliferation sites. So I know what I'm talking. I predicted Bitcoin before everybody else. Now the government sells you Bitcoin. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So the president can invoke it to suppress an insurrection or a rebellion, which he's already cited on Truth Social, to enforce federal law when it's being obstructed, which he says it is, by the Democrats, when a state requests federal military assistance, which they're going to have to with what's coming, and to protect civil rights. Now, in the past, it was used in 1957 in Little Rock, Arkansas. Eisenhower sent the 101st Airborne Division to enforce desegregation, just giving you some examples of when it was used before. 1962 and 1963, Mississippi and Alabama during these civil rights rulings. Of course, the Los Angeles riots, many of you probably remember, in 1992, George W. Bush activated at California's request. And then in 2005, it was planned but not executed to stop what was martial law that had been declared for arguably valid reasons during Hurricane Katrina. So no president has openly used it in the 21st century beyond the LA riots case. Now, also because I do all of this intense study for you guys. You know, I've dedicated my life to deep research, real-world solutions, making you rich. Of course, I'm an American patriot, leading the charge. I've never complied to anything. And I've warned you long in advance of all these events transpiring long in advance. I'm now going to reveal kind of how this tender box is set up. And then I had another thought. I want to be careful about how I orate it. So let me just kind of think here for a minute. Again, we have to keep in mind that just like during the first Civil War, now it'll be Republicans versus Democrats, mainstream media versus new media. You know, we've already seen a complete fracture within MAGA. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Trump, they've split, so they had a huge divorce. So there's a lot of drama and a lot of inconsistencies. And of course, we've been at active war over the last several decades. We've seen this with debanking. We've seen this with the massive campaigns working against freedom fighters. We'll just say that. So things are getting really, really hot. So let me think about how I'm going to say this for a minute and ask me some questions here because I think you know where I'm getting at. Again, I just gave you the historical reference points of when and how this was used. Let's talk a little bit, what it does when it's invoked. Well, it'll maintain crowd control. It'll give Donald Trump, great question there, arrest assistance. It will help to secure infrastructure, stop riots, insurrections, rebellion. So one of our audience members here brought up a really good point that I also pointed out on X that I want to explain to you, and I want us all to think cautiously about. Notice the American people are being positioned to fight each other. Okay, that's what I tell you. They always divide and conquer. Notice that instead of fighting the deep state, or the cabal, or the elites that have caused all this madness, the debt, the lockdowns, the bailouts, and the tyranny. Instead of focusing and uniting on the common enemy, who are the deep state positioning to attack each other? You guessed it, the American people. So the king laughs, right? And we know this is a Cloward-Piven strategy, Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. And again, this is what they want. They want Republicans and Democrats at war. So they're playing the American people like a fiddle. So keep that in mind too. American people, for whatever reason, you guys are super smart, but for whatever reason, the American people aren't. They haven't figured this out yet. They still actually believe in politics, which is absolutely insane. And I hope this camera doesn't die because it looks like it actually is going to die here. And if it dies, well, I'm sorry. That's all we've got. Let me see if I can plug that in and if that'll help. Yes, it looks like that might be charging now. Okay, that's good news. So I can continue with this critical emergency broadcast. So the swamp's being drained. Let's talk about, well, maybe I'll just show you a picture. Maybe I'll just show you guys a picture. And, maybe we just kind of skip to getting prepared and getting ready. One of our founding fathers said, from time to time, the tree of liberty just needs to be refreshed. Guys, this is the mainstream media. It's unbelievable, I know. But just, you know what, I'm not going to show it to you because of the algorithms. Just go to the mainstream media, go to the top of the Drudge Report, the mainstream media, and, oh gosh, guys. Yeah, it's going to be wild. It is going to be a light show through the end of the year. Man, it's going to be rough. Keep asking me questions. Let's interact a little bit more today. Yes, there's going to be a ton of volatility. We can talk about crypto. Again, crypto is going to be much more sought after and much more of a safe haven during sovereign collapse. So during Civil War, I would expect more debanking, more attacks on liberty, freedom, patriot fighters like you tuning in, attacks on Christians. Christians will be labeled the enemy as well, because keep in mind, the whole Christian movement is a part of MAGA, right, supposedly. So as hell breaks loose, it's going to be very easy to blame Christians. Okay, we've even seen this kind of post Charlie Kirk. They say Christians now are radical. So I would expect debanking of Christians. I would expect political attacks on Christians. I've said this for some time. I think being a Christian is the least safe thing you could actually be. It's amazing to me that some people think that somehow it's always been gumdrops and lollipops being a Christian. No, mostly throughout history, it's been prosecution, tyranny, and just go ahead and read about the disciples. You'll find out real quick what happened to them. So on this massive news, again, I can't really say all, but I will go to some questions here. Donald Trump has now been banned from the Cheney funeral as a result. Geez, this is insane. Oh, this is insane. So perfect opportunity to roll out the surveillance state as well. So, this would be something to kind of watch for is the coming days, weeks, and months during the public protests will give us a clue on how all these robot dogs, these police robots, spy cameras, and the surveillance state, and all these new WAPONs will be used against the American people. So be looking for that for clues. Again, they control all the self-driving cars. They can turn them off instantly. They can drive them straight to camps. All the drones are controlled by the deep state. Your cell phones, all of the media. Let's go check out what the fake news is saying about the upcoming civil war. Yeah, so they're kind of working on their story. I'm not seeing any major headlines. They're probably trying to figure out, how to present this to their constituents. Let me go to Truth Social, see if Donald Trump's made any updates. Again, the drops today have been insane. Absolutely insane. I pretty much only am on Truth Social just to follow Donald Trump. Just because it's that crazy. So, yeah, it appears Donald Trump is preparing for war. Now, here he actually says insurrection. You probably can't see it, but right there it says insurrection and treason. So they're already talking about the Insurrection Act. Oh, this is what I was going to say. I almost forgot. So I've been deep diving a lot of this research in recent days, and the Economist magazine editors were also bringing this idea up. And I alarmingly saw this in the image of the Economist magazine Look Ahead 2026, where it very much was emblematic of Trump's use of the coming Insurrection Act. So I want you to think, the fear and the hysteria that's coming to the American public, right? Like, think about this for a minute. Think about the average Democrat that's attacked Donald Trump all these years. I want you to think about all of Donald Trump's enemies. Remember all of Donald Trump's enemies that have attempted to throw him in you-know-what, and they've indicted him. And we remember Donald Trump being hammered by the Clintons and the Obamas and the Cheneys. I want you to understand, too, that Donald Trump has nothing to lose. He's migrating to older age. He's fit as a fiddle, okay, but he's got nothing to lose. This is now his legacy moment. So for Donald Trump to push it to full-blown declaration of insurrection, okay, and move us into a martial law state, some would argue might even be justified with, God forbid, the coming civil unrest that is ahead, but is also kind of his lasting legacy moving forward as president. Again, the American people have had it far too easy. Think about even the baby boomer generation. I love you guys, but geez, man, did you guys even have a crisis outside Vietnam? And that wasn't on your shores. New generations have had to put up with bailouts, the entire collapse of the U.S. financial system, bank runs in 2008 and 09, countless wars overseas, infinity wars in the Middle East, the collapse of the financial system, a total hyperinflationary dollar collapse. No one can afford anything. Spraying our freaking skies, starting, media wars on a cell phone. I mean, baby boomers never had this. Now cell phones are actually affecting brain damage on their victims. I'm not sure if you know this, but when you're actually on your cell phone, it causes legitimate brain damage. They've studied this, that the constant scrolling and the constant stimulus and stimuli is rewiring and remapping human synapses. So I just want to put this into perspective. I mean, countless wars. Then the whole 2020 thing hit. Like if you're a millennial or Generation X or Y or whatever it is, it's the equivalent of taking a pan, like an egg pan, and just being hit over the head constantly. Constant fear, constant collapse, constant war, constant natural disasters, constant worldwide insecurity, instability. I mean, an old house back in the day for the baby boomers cost like $30K. Now that same house is like $3 million, right? So like the American dream has fallen and it's gone away, right? This is why they're introducing more debt, 50-year mortgages. I was even reading, I think they're going to do 12-year auto loans. They're moving towards UBI, universal basic income. They're collapsing the dollar. They invented stable coins so the stable coins can buy all the debt. So I want to remind you of the amount of just trauma that the country has been in. Every year, there is a new worldwide shock event that the deep state deploys. It's uncanny. And now we're moving to civil war. Isn't it incredible? Time after time, no relief, just crisis after crisis. So obviously we know, based on that, just the psychology of that, is that the evil players overthrowing America are creating these conditions for a reason to collapse it, right? Because you would only do that. You would only have a frying pan out banging people over the head every month unless you had some kind of ulterior motive or agenda to collapse America, collapse the US dollar, make it a hotbed of, I can't say the word, but, very unstable conditions, and to do all these other things which they're rolling out. So this is incredible. So what is this going to do? Again, my advice has been best in the world. I've told you to exit the dollar, exit the banks for years now. The best performing assets in the world have been the ones I've recommended: Bitcoin, crypto, blockchain, real estate, gold, silver, commodities, real life skills, and creating cash flows. We've nailed it across the board. Those are the only assets that you want. The worst assets have been bonds, treasuries, fixed income, debt rated, debt assets, leveraged assets, margin assets, anything backed by dollars have been terrible assets, the worst, right? Not worth the paper it's printed on. It tells us on a dollar backed by the full faith and trust, right, of, I guess, nothing. I don't know how you trust something they can print to infinity. So, as we move this direction, right, we're going into cashless society. They've deleted pennies from circulation. They'll be deleting other currencies, other bills they're getting rid of, right? So a highly monitored, tracked, surveilled, a very Orwellian nature to control. Now, we've also seen this in crypto, right? I've been telling you to buy privacy coins. Why? It's going to be so important to be in privacy tokens like Litecoin during what's coming. Again, worldwide tyranny. So the only positive thing I can say is we're on the right side of history. As an American patriot, someone that loves this country and supports America, we can have some confidence that, again, the people in charge, mostly at least, are American patriots. And as Donald Trump does reveal and publicly disclose what the American people asked for we also must understand there's going to be grave consequences. And this is what I was saying days ago. Be careful what you wish for, because if you keep pressuring Donald Trump, he will dump the Epstein files, and then you'll be in hell on earth in scorched Mad Max Earth, essentially, which is where we're going now. So was it worth it? I mean, again, I'll let you decide. And I'd kind of like maybe you to think about that. Do Americans think what's coming now will be worth the disclosure of the Epstein file? Is it worth the country imploding? Is it worth Civil War type conditions? Is it worth cities being in uproar? Is it worth the Insurrection Act being declared potentially? God forbid, I pray against it. Is it worth economic collapse? Because the dollar is going to collapse now as a result. Was it worth it? Because the American people demanded it, instead of focusing on the real things that we should all be focused on and fighting to preserve and make America great. But look, I understand Donald Trump, the American people putting him on a lot of pressure. So now he's flat out calling for words that I can't even repeat. You got what you asked for, is what I'm telling you. So, privacy, sovereignty, assets you control with no bank debt. That's why I built the Digital Noah's Ark Island project. Assets that produce cash flows outside of the banks, not connected to any leverage, real, physical, hard, sovereign, right? That's what makes Litecoin and Bitcoin so cool, right? It's sovereign money. So with an MWeb address with Litecoin, you actually control all of your Litecoin privately. No one can see your transactions. In some cases, they can't see your balance, as long as it's MWeb to MWeb. They call it Mimblewimble. This is also why the Winklevoss twins just dumped a lot of their Bitcoin, actually. This is kind of alarming, to be honest. But the Winklevoss twins dumped huge positions in Bitcoin recently, and they started buying Zcash suddenly. And they've announced it to the world. They're saying privacy is really important because they also know where we're headed. It's that bad. So, God bless you, Mary. Always great to see your beautiful face there. I love you. I love all you guys. The videos that I've been doing the last few days they're hard, right? Stay hard, hitting it in your face. Okay, they haven't been necessarily all rosy. But again, I told you that it wasn't going to be rosy during the systematic collapse of westernized civilization as we knew it. We can't expect not to live through chaos and volatility during the crash of the dollar. We can't expect lollipops and gumdrops during what's coming to American cities. It's just not going to happen. All we have to do is read history and understand it's been very rare to have any peace. Now, I am optimistic. I do believe Donald Trump, of course, as a part of these massive declarations like the Insurrection Act, will lead us into a very prosperous renaissance and golden age. But it's not going to come without a fight. And it's going to come with a very turbulent transition into the new real asset space and into these new technologies like stable coins and other things that I've been advising, warning about, and educating for a very, very long time. I talked about yesterday that the tech numbers that came out from NVIDIA were awesome, blew out all expectations, really erasing that there isn't a bubble yet. My friend Ray Dalio also said this. He said, even if there is a bubble, that doesn't mean you sell tech. He's a huge owner of Bitcoin, obviously, and a huge owner of AI. He's even building his own AI systems right now based on him. I've exposed this and also shared this with you, but all the elites are uploading their consciousness into AI programs right now so that these AI-created conscious devices will carry on after their passing. So there will be a Ray Dalio artificial intelligence that you can interact with. They've already mapped their brains, and it's being put into these super super intelligent. So just on a business front, NVIDIA's returns were very, very bullish, proving the point that not only they sold out on all their microprocessors through the next few years, they can't even meet demand, but the profits are just at levels we've never, ever seen. So again, there's going to be volatility. Stock market was up 700. Now it's down 160 points. Let's kind of make the rotation here. Gold has been pulling back a little bit. I mean, geez, man, gold, shouldn't gold be at like 10,000 an ounce? I mean, we're entering civil war. Like, don't you think it would be at like 10? Like, who's suppressing gold? Gold should be at like 15,000 an ounce during civil war conditions, don't you think? Like, Donald Trump's declaring mass arrests against Democrats. Like, don't you think gold would skyrocket? Like, it must be BlackRock or something artificially suppressing the market. I did mention that the deep state is attempting to take out Michael Saylor and his company's strategy right now. Michael Saylor's company's strategy has an average buy price of Bitcoin at 65K, of which his credit conditions worsen, and he moves to some liquidity concerns since he's got a lot of debt, a lot of leverage, a lot of bonds he's issued, buying all that Bitcoin. So I actually think the deep state's attempting to wipe him out because they want to nationalize his company. And then that way, the Bitcoin comes in a net neutral fashion onto the books of Washington, D.C. They'll, pay back shareholders and stuff. And that way, the government and BlackRock can absorb it. And just like Trump has taken a 10% stake in Intel, he'll take, or someone will, a 10% stake, let's say, for an example purposes of strategy. And then that way, BlackRock and Wall Street would, at that point, have full control, essentially, over the Bitcoin market, which they kind of already do because they bought all of it. Remember, they said it was a scam before, but now they've been buying and selling it to the public for years. Even Larry Fink said he was wrong, and he changed his mind, right? So again, I mean, it's been a crazy couple of years. So I guess I won't go too long in the tooth. If you have any questions or you want me to address any commentary, but we just took a turn for the worst. So I encourage you to read up on what Donald Trump has declared, read his direct quotes. I mean, these sound like orders to me. We have not seen anything like this maybe since the French Revolution. We all kind of know what happened then, right? You remember the French Revolution? So that's pretty much what Donald Trump is calling for right now. So what we need to be thinking about are solutions, getting super organized, and the consequences of this evolving cataclysm as the deep state orchestrates it, of course, to pin every American against each other. That's their big goal. So we'll kind of close with that. But of course, the goal of your government is to make sure you're fighting each other, but not them. Okay, so just understand that concrete point. That again, instead of resisting the real enemy, you fight the non-existent enemy. And then that way they control, brainwash the American populations into submission. So the political rhetoric will be enormous. I would also say risks would be just fringe groups. So let's pray for peace, taking advantage of this situation as well, because the more radicalized the nation becomes, and look at Donald Trump's language. I mean, I don't think we can argue against the fact it's radical. So what Donald Trump is saying on Truth Social will radicalize almost in Manchurian fashion candidate style fringe groups. Right? So we all know, the CIA through their assets, which is a lot of this is declassified program, sleepers. You know what I mean? So again, as the rhetoric picks up, as CNN, the enemy of the American people, then weaponizes the rhetoric from their vantage point, defending Democrats, that'll implant the seed into the sleepers that, again, let's pray for peace and pray against it. But, those people snap Okay, so it's a radicalization. But I want you to understand who's doing that. Okay? Again, it's the cabal. Way up. Not up only, not towards God the Father or Jesus Christ the King. Not that high up, but the people that are actually in charge right now. So, man, it's just crazy to see the perfect storm being developed, the perfect just orchestration of events, just the complete Machiavellian brilliance of the deep state, now leading America into absolute crap show. I mean, honestly, these people are so good at what they do, and their ability to weaponize the American people against each other, and their techniques on manipulation and psychology and sociology, and the list goes on and on, is at a level that most people can't even comprehend. And now that they are the only ones with complete control of the AI, and only they have the highest level and the best software of it. They now have advanced algorithms running simulations of super control that the American people will never know what hit them. And you have to think about it from their demonic perspective, just how good these demons are, how effective they are, how they're able to convince and warp the minds of the 99%, how the great majority has been conned, and now they roll out the red carpet of destruction. And westernized nations will just go right towards it, pretty much with a smile. And so I'll end with this. This is why it's so important to get close with God. It is so important to get close with Jesus right now. I'm speaking this word even to myself. It tells us in the Bible that men's hearts will harden during tribulation in the end times. And so, at times we must remind ourselves, even though it's irritating, that the great majority of the drone zombies have no clue what's happening around them. And even though they're the problem, and they're helping to create the chaos, and they have no idea what they're doing, and they're literally the enemy of our own freedom and liberty and prosperity. It is important to remind ourselves, and I'm reminding myself too, to be childlike and loving of heart during the worst of economic, financial, social, governmental collapses, currency reset, abominations that have ever struck the planet like a freaking comet. And that we need to do as much as we can, as humanly possible, to spread the gospel and rebuke the Antichrist and Satan as he positions the American people for hellfire. And we must go to God in the firmness and cornerstone of his rock and celebrate his victory in the eye of the storm, during the rainfall, during the tsunami. And so today's emergency broadcast is a big one, which makes me very heavy of heart to understand and see exactly what's about to happen next in the United States. So, 2 takeaway points. Donald Trump, I predicted it first, will declare the Insurrection Act in America. 2, the Democrats will fight an impeachment war against the president. Be vigilant. I've told you to exit American cities for a very long time. There's going to be problems. We'll just say that. The confidence in the dollar will implode during these declarations, which is the plan, to then reset the new system into the new dollars, which I told you they'd be stable coins. And private ecosystem assets like ours, sovereign assets like crypto and blockchain, privacy coins like Litecoin, top stable coin PIX. This is not a stable coin, but they are a new reserve standard. They're RSR token, reserve rights. Again, founded and owned by Peter Schiff or not Peter Schiff, excuse me, he's on my mind lately. Peter Thiel, and also Sam Altman of ChatGPT and OpenAI. They're both founders. Trump coin, right? Anything within the Trump ecosystem will obviously pump because you're at war. Economic, financial, and what appears to be the next physical phase of events. So God bless. More incredible updates are ahead. Again, the files will be peppered out and released to the public systematically over the coming days and weeks, well leading into the holiday season and, of course, 2026, the golden age, and the inevitable financial, economic, governmental Bretton Woods-style reset of the new republic into the new system. I love you all. Jesus Christ is King. Follow Trump on Truth Social for his latest updates. Again, I wish I could show you, but it's much too graphic. The President of the United States has made the call. God bless you. And again, I ask the American people, are you happy yet? You demanded the files. The files have been released. And now we sit on the verge of what the Economist magazine predicted, because it's not a prediction, absolute chaos ahead. God bless. What do? Exit the banks, get rich, make sure you're in private economies and assets with no bank debt, own crypto, Bitcoin, blockchain, fight like hell, peacefully resist, do not comply, and join other great Christians and brilliant, amazing people like my founders at the Digital Noah's Ark at islandproject.com, faith first, leading with our hearts of courage. And the only lights left in a very demonic, hellish world. This is the end times. This is tribulation, folks. And this is the reset of the United States of America. The tree of liberty will be refreshed from time to time. God bless, and I salute the President. I salute America and all of you tuning in. It is an honor.